My name is Becki Pine, and this is my video out.
So now you can just tell me what your favorite color is.
My mom asked me that question and my response was glitter.
Yes!
I'm Becki and I do a lot of things. Most recently and currently I work in fundraising, primarily with LGBT nonprofits, and I help them create an organizational voice and raise funds to further their very important missions, regardless of whether it's an art-based nonprofit or if it's crisis services like the Trevor Project. And my next step is moving to LA to work with Equality California. I am 32 and I grew up relatively in the tri-state area. My parents got divorced when I was young, and but both worked in New York City. So whether it was, one of the suburbs or in the city or in one of the boroughs, I guess I'm from the tri-state area.
Yeah.
I guess after college and grad school, I moved back to the New York area and then wasn't sure if I was going to stay, but then ended up getting a job with the Trevor Project, and I wanted to stay in New York. Well, as I identify as a member of the community, I don't label myself. I'm attracted to people of all genders. But in addition to that, my family history kind of goes back to the start of the movement. My grandfather is the detective that led the raid on Stonewall, which I actually didn't know growing up. I found that out when I was 20. Even before knowing that, I always was an ally or member of the community, because depending on how old I was, I didn't really know what that meant. But I started GSAs in my schools and was a member of the GSAs in my college, and just was always a safe space for someone to talk to, regardless of what they were going through. Even if it wasn't LGBT related, I still wanted to show for people that they had support. Probably I was about 12 when I said it out loud, but I never really thought about it. But I remember telling my mom that, I'm not gonna just date men. I have no interest in gender. It's more about the connection I have with a person.
And what did your mom say?
I don't really think she reacted to it. It was just kind of okay. And, my dad was always also very supportive, and again, with the not actually actually coming out, he was always like, if there's something you need to tell me, you can. But I never really, it doesn't matter to me if I was dating a boy or a girl, so I would just bring someone home regardless. I've been very fortunate throughout my life that I've always had really good friends, and they accept me for me regardless of, my sexuality or the color of my skin or my weight or any kind of issues that may not be ideal, I guess.
Did you ever have a time when you doubted who you were?
Actually, when I found out about Stonewall, I didn't know anything about it. So when my dad told me that my grandfather was being interviewed, I was like, oh, what's that? And he told me, and then I researched it further, and never look at the comments section, because that was very unfortunate, because everyone called my grandfather a bigot, or that, he was mostly a bigot. And that was actually the first time I felt like I had to hide something about myself. And because I remember I told a professor and one of my best friends at the time, and they were like, oh, he's one of the bad guys. And I was like, but my grandpa, he's not a bad guy. So it just, as someone who has always been a member of and a friend of the community, it was very shocking to me that that was in my history, so that I didn't talk about it for a really long time after I found out.
Did you ever have the chance to talk to your grandfather about it?
I didn't. I honestly was afraid of what he might say, and I regret that I never did, because I know that my brother has, and I've seen things that he's said since Stonewall, especially in the last few years of his life, and I wish that I had talked to him about it. And I also wish that maybe I did come out, because he would have known, because at the time that he passed away, I was dating a guy, and I think that he assumed I'm straight. And I think it would have been good to know that he supported me regardless. And I know he would have, but the confirmation would have been nice. When I was little, I definitely asked my grandfather stories about, like, what was it like being in the police force, or what was it like being in World War II? But this whole big thing that happened never came up. It's like, and I actually did ask my dad. I was like, "Did you intentionally not tell me about this?" And my dad and my mom just, it never came up. Like, it's not something that they hid, but it didn't come up naturally in conversation until my grandfather started doing the interviews. I mean, my hope would be for full equality, but I think more short term would be that we just don't lose the rights that we've gained. Because, you know, from my perspective, if I had married my first boyfriend, that wouldn't have been a problem. But if I married my first girlfriend, that would have been a problem, legally. And that, to me, like, the love that I had for them, each person is valid and real, and I feel like it shouldn't matter. And, you know, regardless of who I marry, I want to be able to have kids. If I want to have kids, I should be able to. Or any rights. Like, I shouldn't be fired for, well, someone who is trans shouldn't be fired for that. I don't identify that way, but obviously there are people who do and have to deal with that. I feel like there are just so many things that it's hard to know where to start. Like, I know, I can't remember if it's statewide or nationwide, but I know that they're trying to place a ban on gays adopting, and which is such a shame, because there are so many children that need homes. And, you know, and in my family, my uncle and his husband have been together since before I was born. That's the longest standing relationship in my family. And to say that they can't have kids because they're gay is just ridiculous. And, you know, I'm sure that stands true for many, many couples who want kids. We get more done when we work together as a community. And a lot of that is going to involve pressuring legislators to do the right thing. I have been very fortunate and never really had to experience a lot of the hardships that so many of my friends in the community have had to do. And a lot of times I wonder if it's because people assume I'm straight, and essentially I'm passing. And I hate that that's even a thought. Like, people should just be able to be who they are and be loved and love in return. And, you know, I want to be happy, and I want my friends to be happy. And that shouldn't change because of who you love, because of the color of your skin, because of the size of your body, the length of your hair, your nationality, any of it. We're all people, and we should be treated with the same respect as anybody else. I would say to do it on your own terms. You don't owe anyone any explanation. You don't owe anyone to come out or to not come out. It's if you want to, and it's on your timeline. And it shouldn't be rushed just because someone else wants it to be rushed. It should be all on you. Not that it's like a pressure to be all on you, because there are people out there who support you. Even if you don't happen to know who they are, they exist.
Tell me about this. So
my former boss at the Trevor Project gave this to me for, I want to say, Christmas one year. And the timing worked out really well, because the day that she gave it to me one day, and then literally the next day I was flying to Chicago to see one of my best friends from college, and we were going to go to a Disney drag brunch. And this was the present that I got the day before, and I was like, you have no idea how perfect this is. Because, you know, Ursula was based off of Divine, and I had been planning on being Ursula anyway, because of course I'm going to dress up.
Yeah.
So it couldn't have been better.
Yes, I love it.
I really like my eternal optimism. No matter what happens or has happened that hasn't gone necessarily the way I wanted it to, I always come through, and I always find a way to make a situation work to my benefit. And a lot of that has to do with the supportive community of friends and family that I have. But a lot of it also, as I'm realizing the more it keeps happening that something doesn't go right, I have to have the attitude to make it better, otherwise it won't be, even if I do have supportive people. Yeah, I just love everybody. Like, you know, everybody's going through a struggle of their own, regardless of privilege. Some people are aware of it, and some people aren't, but everyone's dealing with something, and kindness goes a long way.
Just so we can see more of your beautiful collection of...
Oh, we should put the tutu on the other side, maybe.
You want to? I'm on it, don't you worry.
Because, you know, gotta have the rainbow.
Taste the rainbow. Let's see what it looks like.